What if the hardest season of your life is not a punishment? What if the silence you have been praying into is not emptiness? What if the waiting, the painful, confusing, seemingly endless waiting, is not God forgetting you? What if it is God preparing you? There was a woman named Miriam, 43 years old. A woman of deep faith, the kind that showed up every Sunday, the kind that prayed before meals and before sleep and before difficult conversations. The kind of faith that had never truly been tested. Until the year everything fell apart at once. Her marriage of 16 years ended quietly and painfully. Her mother was diagnosed with an illness that changed everything, and the business she had spent 7 years building collapsed under circumstances she could not have predicted or prevented. 3 things. 1 year. All at once. Miriam sat in her empty house one evening, the house that used to be full of a husband and plans and noise. And she said something to God that she had never said before in her life. She said, "I don't understand. I have been faithful. I have trusted you. And this is where I am." The room stayed silent. And Miriam, for the first time, did not know what to do with that silence. Here is something important that most people misunderstand about the tests God allows into our lives. A test is not a punishment. A test is not evidence that you are forgotten or unloved or abandoned. A test is evidence that you are trusted. Think about it this way. A teacher does not give an exam to a student they have already written off. They give it to the student they believe is ready, even if the student does not feel ready themselves. The depth of the test is often a measure of the depth of what is being prepared inside you. Miriam had faith that had never been pressed. Faith that had never been squeezed. Faith that lived comfortably in the good seasons and had never been asked to survive a hard one. And God, who sees further than any of us, knew that what Miriam was being called toward required a faith that could hold under pressure. Not the faith she had. The faith she was about to build. The test rarely announces itself. It does not arrive with a label that says, "This is a season of growth, please remain faithful and results will follow." It arrives as loss. As silence. As confusion. As the feeling that the ground you built everything on has shifted beneath your feet without warning. Miriam's test looked like grief. It looked like loneliness in a house that used to be full. It looked like sitting beside her mother in a hospital room wondering how to be strong for someone else when she had nothing left for herself. It looked like starting over at 43, financially, personally, spiritually, when starting over was the last thing she had planned for this season of her life. And here is what made it a test rather than simply suffering. Every single day Miriam had a choice. Become bitter, or become deeper. Close her heart, or allow it to be broken open into something larger. Walk away from the faith that felt silent, or press into it with a trust she could not yet explain. That daily choice, made in the dark, made without reward, made with no visible evidence that it was the right one, that is what a test of faith actually looks like. Here is what failing a test of faith costs you. Not God's love, that never changes. Not your worth, that is not on the table. What it costs you is the version of yourself waiting on the other side of it. When we respond to a test with bitterness, we calcify. We harden in ways that make the next season smaller than it was meant to be. We carry wounds into new chapters that poison what could have been fresh. When we walk away from faith in the hard season, we cut ourselves off from the very source that would have carried us through it. Miriam had a friend named Deborah. A woman who had gone through her own devastating season 10 years earlier and had responded with anger and withdrawal. She had walked away from her faith in that season and never fully returned. Miriam watched Deborah carefully. Not with judgment, but with recognition. She saw what bitterness had done over 10 years. How it had quietly narrowed Deborah's world. How it had made her cautious in ways that kept joy at a distance. How the wound from that season, never processed, never surrendered, had become the lens through which she saw everything. Miriam decided she did not want that. Even if she did not understand. Even if the silence continued. Even if the answers never came in the form she was asking for. She decided to pass the test. So what does passing a test of faith actually look like? It does not look like pretending everything is fine. It does not look like performing happiness in the middle of genuine pain. It does not look like burying the hard questions under religious language and hoping they disappear. It looks like honesty first. The kind Miriam showed in that empty house, telling God exactly where she was, exactly what she felt, exactly what she did not understand. That honesty is not faithlessness. That is intimacy. That is the prayer of someone who trusts the relationship enough to bring their whole broken self into it. It looks like choosing gratitude for what remains when what you had is gone. Not forced gratitude. Not performative gratitude. But the deliberate act of looking, even in the dark, for what is still true, still present, still good. It looks like continuing to show up, not with certainty, but with willingness. Showing up to pray when prayer feels like speaking into a wall. Showing up to hope when hope feels irrational. Showing up to the next day because the next day is the only place the answer can arrive. And it looks like trusting the process even without understanding the plan. Miriam could not see why all three things had to happen in the same year. She could not see what was being built inside her through the compounded weight of it all. But she kept showing up anyway. 18 months after that evening in the empty house, Miriam sat in a different space entirely. Not a perfect life. Life is never perfect, but a deeper one. A wider one. A one built on something she could not have accessed without going through what she went through. Her mother was still ill, but Miriam had become the kind of presence beside her that only someone who had learned to sit with uncertainty could be. Her business was gone, but a new direction had emerged from the rubble, something more aligned with who she actually was than what she had been building before. And her faith, that comfortable, untested faith she had carried for 43 years, had become something altogether different. Something that did not need the circumstances to be good in order to remain steady. Something that had been pressed and had held. That is what a test builds when you do not walk away from it. Not a trouble-free life, but an unshakable one. So today, if you are in the middle of a season that makes no sense, if the silence feels too long, if the weight feels too heavy, if you have asked the same question Miriam asked in that empty house, know this. The teacher only gives the test to the student they believe in. The silence is not abandonment. The weight is not punishment. You are being built for something that requires exactly what this season is building in you. Hold on, show up, trust the one who sees further than you do. You are not being forgotten. You are being prepared. If Miriam's story found you at the right moment, share this today. Someone in your life is in the middle of their test right now and needs to hear this. Subscribe to Ancient Wisdom and stay close. Real conversations, every single week. Take care of yourself, and keep the faith, especially when it is hard.